And then my neighbor came down, checked it out. He goes, "You come to my house this weekend?" I go, "What for?" And he goes, "We're going to cut down trees for you to build for my living room." It's like, oh, okay. So that's one that took a year and a half. That was the deer head one.
All right. Welcome to All Things Wood Floor, the Wood Floor podcast for the Wood Floor Brilliant, brought to you by Wood Floor Business. I'm Steve Diggins, your host. Ever wonder about those floors you see in magazines that are made of sticks and branches and bark and twigs, and we talk about live sawn and live edge? Well, my guest today, Tom Ourada, has a lot of that stuff out there. He's an expert at it. He's from Washington State. And this year, Wood Floor Business Magazine gave out their design awards, and Tom's team at Ourada Design won Best Residential. We're going to talk a little bit today about the organic quality of wood, art versus functionality. We got a lot of stuff to cover, so floor pros around the world, let's get to it. Tom Ourada, Ourada Design, welcome finally to All Things Wood Floor. They make me say these things. I have to do a formal intro for you like that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's great to be on here.
Hey, while we're doing that, I got a question for you. How close are you to, let's say, Seattle? To give people a reference.
4.5, 5 hours. It's on the other side of the state. It's called West Seattle. I mean, not West Seattle. That's the west side, and we're on the east side of the state. So.
I got you. Well, that's like I visit my sister in Wyoming, and she's a park ranger, and I go, well, what day can we go to Yellowstone? She goes, 5.5 hours from here? Like, she flies 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours to the airport to get me in Salt Lake, 3 hours back to her house. When you go on a day trip, you pick hotels where you're going every day. It's nuts. You're out in big country. How goes it? How goes the battle in the flooring trenches?
It's going well. Just got my install just finished up. Actually this morning. So, and then I started sanding. So it's nice. My first herringbone. So going good. It's going smooth.
I guess that's a good first question to ask because people are going to see a lot of your work in Wood Floor Business Magazine, and there's a lot of really intricate, dynamic things that are a lot of more art to me. Do you often do just a regular old hardwood floor, or is something always creative?
No, it's always, it's as much as I can, I'd like to be creative.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is there's not that, I haven't marketed myself to get those jobs yet. And that's what I'm in the process of doing, trying to market to get. So right now I do standards, a lot of sand and finishes, some installs. I got contractors that pull me in and do installs and sand and finishes for them.
Well, you and I had talked one time a little bit about that. You talk to anybody that does anything creative in flooring or different in flooring. There are guys that go out every day and they work for builders and they pound out thousands of feet of strip floor. There are ones that work in really elaborate places and they work for multimillionaires, et cetera. One of the things I found when I tried to do all of that type of work is you almost have to create it. It doesn't come to you until people know you can do it, right? You have to kind of make it up.
Of course. Yeah, no kidding. I was just telling I was telling somebody today that it took me from 2013 to 2020 before I finally broke even on an art flooring job.
Right. Did you ever have to give it away in the beginning? You go, well, I'm giving something away. That's what I used to do.
Almost all of it. Yeah. I mean, I was just telling them, it's like you spend, I don't know, 6-7 months and you charge like $5,000. It's like, it's one of those, but it's nights and weekends and it's fun though. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't like it. It's just, I like creating, I like doing something that I hope that the customer's going to love and I love. So, and yeah.
Where you are out there, do you know of Nathan Katzoff? Nathan Katzoff?
Nathan, I just met him. Thank goodness.
You met him? Okay, all right, cool.
Great cat. God, such a down to earth, inspiring kid.
So you see where I'm going with this? I saw it on your Facebook. I didn't know anything about him. I saw it on your Facebook page, and I started watching every video the guy's got. For those that don't know, it's Nathan Katzoff, or it goes by Nathy. And, I mean, this guy is building hand-carved bathtubs and hot tubs out of wood, He works in different mixed media, but it made me think of the conversation that you and I had. His focus was simply, do I want to do flooring, or what would I like to see? And every time he spots a tree or a branch or a stump or a piece of glass, he tries to figure out, what can I see with this? And he crafts from that. And when I was reading like your awards for Floor of the Year, et cetera, you had that same vision. It started with, well, what would I like to see? Tell me the story about when you and your wife said something about, if we're going to put a floor in, go get some wood. Isn't that how it all started?
Well, yeah. I built my own house, and it's whatever. So it's like the shoe guy. Kids never have any shoes. So I hadn't finished it. We lived on plywood floors for 7 years, and I'd been doing hardwood floors like 5 or 6. And she was like, how come we're on plywood floors? You do hardwood flooring. Why don't we have hardwood floors? It's like, well, I can't really afford the wood. And so just the look on her face, she didn't have to say any more. Just the look on her face was like, okay, I better do this. So I have a buddy who had a mill, and I have trees on my property. So I cut down a bunch of trees on my property and milled it. And one of them was a really curved, it's like, they call it a pistol butt, comes out of the side of the hill and then turns upwards. And it's 20 feet long with a 7-foot arch on it. So if you tipped it on its edge, it'd have a 7-foot arch. And it's like 24 inches round. So we spent a day and a half, 15 cuts, moving this thing through a curved log, 20 feet long, probably 3,000 pounds, through a mill that only goes on a track 16 feet. So we just kind of push that horseshoe around as we move it was a feat to do, but luckily the guy and me, we just, it's one of those things. It's a problem, we'll solve it, and it doesn't matter what it takes, we just do it.
What kind of wood was it?
It was big pine, big wet. God, it was soaking wet. Oh, no. That was the one once I slabbed it, I did some designs for my family. They picked one of the 3 designs. I was so excited to get started. I glued it down, and I put some screws in it to hold it down. And I once I put the screws in, water would just bubble up.
Into the floor, into your house, in the floor in your house.
Oh yeah. I had no clue what I was doing. It was just like, let's build a cool floor, and who cares about drying it, But anyway, so that was the start, and then my neighbor came down, saw the finished product, and that's the one the first one I won a Floor of the Year. Floor of the Year in 2014, and then my neighbor came down, checked it out. He goes, "You come to my house this weekend?" I go, "What for?" And he goes, "We're going to cut down trees for you to build for my living room." It's like, oh, okay. So that's the one that took a year and a half. That was the deer head one.
Okay, people see that in Wood Floor Business Magazine. It's the deer head, and it's wrapped in. How many species of wood you got in that thing?
I don't know, a bunch. See, and that was my start. That was like my second one. So the first one, I'm screwing down wet lumber into my floor, and it's still good. It's time for resand finish, but it all worked out. But so that one, I did a lot of tinting on it. So in my head, it's like, it's like staining. You just add a little pigment, a little acrylic latex to the water base, and you get some shading. So I shaded it, and it looks cool and everything. But I'm not looking forward to the day that it gets sanded. No. I mean, it'll still look fine. It won't look like it does now. But so that was like 2 floors after that. And then actually the next floor, I traded a kiln, a $4,000 kiln, for a 500-600 square foot, really intricate. It just got put in one of the anyways. It was an instrument for $4,000 kiln, and so that I can dry my wood. So every time I'm learning something. The first time's like, I need to learn how to dry wood. The second one was like, it's the third one too. I stained that also, and so the one I traded the kiln for, I'd stained the borders dark. I stained some other stuff dark, and the guy had just is selling his house, and he wanted it refinished. So I sanded it. Oh yeah, should take 3 days. And so I get in there. It's like I sanded. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot I stained all this. So I took a day and a half, almost 2 days of taping off and staining it again. And that was it. I was like, okay, I'm never staining anything again for effect. It's all going to be solid. It's going to be hardwood. It's going to be something.
It's like doing stained glass kind of, right? You can pick your species instead of staining, and then if anybody sands it, it comes back.
Right, exactly. And that's what I want. It's like, I want this thing to last forever, and then it'll change when you sand it. It'll change again, but it won't change it won't degrade it, or someone won't have to come in and touch it up or whatever. That to me, that's not a floor.
Was the deer? Was that your house or was it for your neighbor's house?
That was my neighbor. That was
for your neighbor. Is it in the magazine? I think it was called the Moses deer. Is that accurate? What is that about?
He is an avid outdoorsman, and he has like 200 acres up there, and it butts up to state land. I don't know how many thousands of acres up there. Anyway, so he's got just a range of. Anyway, so he was up there hunting. And he saw an old, big, huge buck, and he says it was of biblical proportions. Yeah. So he called it Moses. So that's the inspiration of that deer, was what he saw.
So when I was mentioning Nathan Katzoff, I was asking because when I got to that and I read it, it made me think of you, and that's what it made me think of is people like him or you. If you're not brought up through wood craftsman, woodworking, it's easy to be an artist. But do you know the medium? Like like when you look at a floor, like you said, would you do it wet today if you knew that was going to happen? Did he mention, or did you two talk about when people are getting into this like that cold? The things that could possibly go wrong are exponential. Did you talk about that? You probably has to be some learning curve. It's just got some divine intervention. How did you know to just start working with wood differently like this?
Out of necessity, that look my wife gave me. It's like, oh, I got to do something, and I have wood. I've known the easiest way to use slabbed wood. For me, I looked at it. It's like, oh, I'll just butt up to it instead of square cutting everything. It's more. I love curves, so that to me was just was the obvious to just use the natural curves of the wood, and live edge and stuff. It's like, oh, I've already got a line. All the grains are lined, so I don't have to put any new lines on here. I just got to cut to that grain line. So it's all just kind of the easiest possible way to create something, I guess. I kind of look at it, but it's like, oh shoot, I had a thought there. I forget it.
You're a lot younger than me, man. You got to drink some coffee, because I have the same problem, Bob. Wait a minute.
I just had a milkshake for lunch, and I was like, oh wow, I'm getting sleepy.
Well, sugar sleep. I know, right?
I know. Didn't think about that.
So what a lot of people will ask about, I have people run around here all day because we're a distributor, and they'll look at magazines, and everybody that's a pro will come in and they'll have questions, and these are the questions that come up. Like if I look at something like the Moses deer, or any other work that you do, one of the things is people are fascinated by the shapes and the intricacy, but the question is always, okay, when the two media come together, are you joining, filling, painting, caulking, sealing, corking? What are you doing when you're blending all the areas that aren't perfect? And you just said it. I'm going to skip over this. You said live edge, which no one's taken claim to. So I'm going to say you invented it. I told you this. I'm going to pin this on you. I have every textbook. I have right behind me. I have manuals, engineering manuals. There was no Euro sawn, live edge until like an hour and a half ago. And I call other people and go, have you ever heard, what are they talking about? I have no idea what they're talking about, other than maybe they're too cheap to get a planer and cut this stuff, and they're just taking the whole slab out of the tray. But then I talk to you, and it makes sense. When you have explain live edge to me as you just said it, and what do you do when you're putting the two floors together?
Two floor together. When you say two floors together,
like if you're running one species up to another, and it's just clearly not a right angle. You've got curves and arcs, and what do you? Is it filled or is it tight? What are we doing there?
Well, it depends on what year I did it in.
Oh,
So,
all right.
so like I say, every job I try to learn something, and like there's the wetness, the dryness of the wood, there's staining, there's flatness, there's cutting, paper scribing. So the bigger stuff, I was tending to do paper scribing, and that's where I would just butt the board up there. I get it really close, and I put a piece of paper over the top of it, and I'd cut the shape out in the paper, and then I take that piece of paper and I put it on top of the board that I'm buttoning it to, and I draw the line and then cut to that line and butt it up and finesse it with some sanders and stuff.
They've done that for 100 years. They call it pattern scribe. Roofing felt,
okay,
old sheet vinyl, and make a perfect scribe. Okay, that makes sense. Right. I got that.
So, and then at that time I was using a hand jigsaw and a 3-inch belt sander, those little hand belt sanders to do it all. So, and then as it progressed, now everything's kind of like, I think I was going with the thought that I had before was that it's whatever's easiest to do what I would need to do. So I'd slab out the slabs, and they're roughly 7/8 of an inch thick, and then by the time it dries and I plane it and all that, it gets close to 3/4. Shoot, did I lose it again? So
is it 420 in Seattle, Tom? What's happening there?
No, I got it.
Okay, go with it.
So there's marquetry, and then there's intarsia. And intarsia is where you butt wood together, and it's full pieces, thick pieces. And
I didn't know that. Intarsia, awesome.
And then marquetry is where you take thinner pieces and you butt them together, and then you glue them onto a substrate of some nature.
Marquetry versus parquetry. Parquets and marquetry. Okay, got it.
Yeah, right. And so for me to take a tree, slab it up, I've got the actual I got what do you call it? I got the live edges. I don't know how else to say it. It's the actual edge with the bark on it.
Sure.
So I got the bark on both edges. That to cut it down, to use a scroll. I tried using a scroll saw the very first time, and I have all this 3/4 material, and I'm trying to cut it with a scroll saw. But there's no way this working. I'd break blades, I'd tweak them, and it just wasn't conducive. So then I used a jigsaw, and that worked great. And now I use a bandsaw. But the point is I can't take these big, huge slabs that I have. Not huge. Some of them are 15 feet long. Some of them are 12 feet long. Some of them are 4 feet long. Right. But some of them are curved. Some of them are straight. But I have to cut the bark off, and then you got the nice straight square edge. And then for me to have to rip that down to a 1/4 inch is above and beyond what I want to do. So that's how come I never pushed towards the marquetry. I was always going for the not intentionally, but just practically. It was just easier to use thicker material, and now I've developed techniques that allow me to cut and fit those really tight. And I went from the big, wide, 20 foot long, 24-inch with a 7-foot arch slabs in the floor that I had to butt to, and then this last job was tiny. 3/8 of an inch pieces of wood that I'm barely, so it's progressed. The technicality has been increased as my pieces have decreased.
Okay. Give me that word again. You know what? I swear to God, you can stay in this industry.
Intarsia?
Intarsia.
They did it. They actually found some Egyptian graves with it in there.
I believe you.
Yeah.
If there's intarsia, it's in an Egyptian grave. Took me 30 years to get marquetry and parquetry squared out, but I get you. So all right. When you're going through this, and it looks through some of your floor the years and some of the different work that you did, the Moses deer. Give me a couple examples. What's the Bob Lasky floor? If you're reading Wood Floor Business, there's the logs floor, the hallway floor, the Bob Lasky floor. Can you give me a little breakdown of each one of those, what they are?
The Bob Lasky floor is Moses.
Well, that's the Moses floor.
Yeah. Yep.
Logs. You just did one. Well, I say recently. It's called logs, I believe. It's all the circular end joints.
Firewood.
It's all the circular end joints in a circular pattern, and it looks like looks like pencils coming out of a box.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody called it logs online, so I stuck with it.
Sure. No, I like that. There was an artist who, the reason why I call it logs is because there was an artist who works with logs, and he created this sphere. It's got to be 16, 20 feet tall out of these logs, and it looks just like that, but it's an actual 3D art project or whatever. It's a not a statue, but a piece. And so that's his thing. And I can't remember his name. And so I saw that, I go, I could do that on the floor. So that wasn't, I didn't have a floor, but I had some time. So it took probably 40 hours, but I thought I'm going to do that. So I went out in my shop and I just laid it all out, just started cutting logs. So I took branches basically and cut them at angles so they're real long and elliptical, and for each angle, you kind of have to draw it out first. So that wasn't in a floor, but actually it is now. It's in that is in a floor in Missouri. That's in a rental, which I thought was pretty funny.
Wow. I know, right? They wind up so in that particular one, there's a lot of wood in there. Where's the material this whole time? Have you started stockpiling it, or you just go get it, or because there's a lot of different color, material, species, everything in a lot of your work. Is it around in it? Do you look at this material and then it becomes a vision, or do you have the vision and say, I'm going to add the flooring to it now?
Both.
Both.
There's so many different ways I've done it. That one that I traded the kiln for, I had a bunch of wood. He said, hey, do whatever you want. You just let me go. And I just brought all the wood to the house and I laid it up against the walls. And I just took the biggest pieces, big ideas, and I put them down. And then I kind of started filling in. There's another one that I did for a boom truck that was called Firewood. And that same thing. His wife he's the guy who helped me cut that 20-foot log on his mill. He had all this extra wood, and his wife goes, you need to burn that. Get that out of here. You can't, I don't want it. You need to burn. He's like, hey, Tom, can you do anything with this? I'll bring it up from the cabin. Like, yeah, sure. Let's see what we can do. So again, it's just a pile of wood, no rhyme or reason. Just, and then again, you could take, I just took the big ideas, threw them down on the floor and just started filling in accordingly. And then there's other ones where, like my first one, I drew a picture, a basic idea, and then with the wood that I had, I knew what kind of pieces I could draw on a page and make different designs. My family picked out the design. The one in Seattle, the swoosh, that one was, I gave them 4 different designs. She liked 2 of them. We combined them. I drew up another picture of the combined. We decreased some things, increased some things, and proportion-wise, got it all nice and balanced. And then took from that design, drew up, built the floor from that. So there's just the best way. I love having limits.
Sure.
So if you gave me just a certain amount of wood, that'd be perfect for me. It doesn't matter what it is. I could do anything with it. I could figure something out. But if you just said, hey, you could have any wood, you could have any space, you could, just gave me, it'd be overwhelming. It'd be too much for my brain to handle. And it's like, I just want to fall asleep. So that's why when I go to consultations with clients or whatever, I'm trying to narrow the vision, find out what they like, find out what the room is like, how it flows, what kind of furniture they're going to have in there. Is there certain woods that are already in the house that may want to match to anything to put parameters on what I can do, because I feel like I can do anything. It's just and it's overwhelming when I don't have any sort of gate.
That was my next question. Is I'm assuming you're doing some sketching. Yeah. Is it a lot, a little here, there, just when you need it?
No, I typically, when it's for customers, I like to have them have an idea what's happening. So I'll draw it out. I'll do top views. I'll take pictures of the house, different views, and if I have we kind of settled on a rough idea. I'll take the picture and I'll just draw the picture and then draw in the actual idea. And it isn't perfect, but I kind of like that. I like them to not have that is going to be beautiful. It's more like, I like the idea. And then, but the wood, once you get it all in there, it's amplified like 100 times. So
yeah. I used to sketch on plywood because I didn't trust the sketches. You could lay them on the floor and still people can't visualize. They'd say, I'm not sure what you're doing. And I would sketch it right on the plywood. Like,
oh, that's great.
Here's your corner. Here's your set. Here's your medallion. Here's this. Do you want me to sketch some more? Listen, I know people that can't, they just can't visualize. My wife, she paints. I hate painting, but she'll paint this whole office and get done and go, nah, that was wrong. Like I knew when it went up, it wasn't white, it was lavender. Now you're telling me it's lavender. So I watch some of your stuff and I'm like, he's got to be sketching it just to kind of get it out of your head. Doesn't it give you a little sense of security, a little insurance that we're going in the right direction?
Oh yeah, I'd hate to have it get done. They go, yeah, we don't like it. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's a lot of time wasted. So this last job that I did, the fight, the eagles and ospreys and stuff, I put craft paper. I coated their floor with craft paper, and I drew out the elements on the floor, and where the eagle was, or the central, the entry medallion is going to be, where the river snake through. I kind of just, and then where the two eagle and osprey were fighting right in front of the stairs. I drew all that out and kind of gave them an idea where it's going to be. Kind of balanced it in between the stairs and the cabinet and what I loved about that is they had a feeling, that the medallion has to be bigger. That's the first thing they said. It's like, oh yeah, this has to be bigger. Oh, that eagle's too big. We need to have that smaller. So the medallion grew and the eagle shrunk. We positioned, things just got moved because it's so hard to just see from a picture what the proportions and stuff when you're standing up over it versus looking at a picture. So
it's tricky.
And then and then I folded all that paper back up into I cut it all up. It's all taped together. I cut it into pieces and brought it back to the shop, unfolded it, and then built to what I drew on the paper on the floor.
Hey, Wood Floor Pros. This is Kim Walgren, the longtime editor of Wood Floor Business. Entries are now open for our 2023 Ultimate Wood Floor Guy and Gal contest, sponsored by Lagler. Once again, our Ultimate Wood Floor Guy and Wood Floor Gal will both win a trip to the Lagler Fly-In Sand training in Germany. Think you have what it takes? Go to woodfloorbusiness.com and enter Ultimate Wood Floor Guy and Gal 2023 into the search box. That's it for now. Let's get back to Stephen's conversation with creative wood floor pro Tom Ourada.
Some people, what they do is art, and some people it has functionality. And then you look at what you do, and a lot of people, especially when they're competing, or they're not even competing, they do something brilliant and they put it in for floor of the year, and someone goes, guess what you won? It's not always like someone sets out to do it, and if they do, you usually talk to some of the master guys, they'll give you some tips at it. But in our industry, typically, it's wrapped around a hardwood floor. So you've got the artistic work, and then there's that functionality that's wrapped around it. Most of the people in our industry, they go to work each day doing flooring, and it's functionality. And then the next level is kind of design and color, and is it a nice look? Is it something I want to see? What you do is a little tricky. Is it more treacherous and more difficult to complete the project, have everybody happy and get paid, rather than, look, I laid out a nice straight floor. No, I did all this intricate design, and don't you love it? Does it take you longer and you put a lot more time and a lot more care than just slapping a floor down, I would assume?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I haven't had anybody. Well, there's only been 2 paying customers, so it's one of those where I haven't had a bunch of experience with that whole completed. Everything I did before that, where I wasn't getting paid. I mean, everybody was just like astounded. The Bob Lasky, the Moses floor. He didn't know what I did, and I didn't show him, and it was all done on an 8x8 sheet of plywood. The Moses part, and I brought it in, and he wasn't there. I mean, he was there, but he didn't see. I carried the thing in, but myself, put it in place, and I was gluing it down and stuff. And he came in. He goes, I mean, he the look on his face was, oh my gosh. He sat down and he was dumbfounded. So to me, that was payment in itself. And when that happens, and the house that I traded the kiln for, it got sold, and my buddy sold the house, and he sold it to a couple, and the couple came in, and apparently she was dying of cancer. And these are the things that make it so worth it to me, is that she comes in and she goes, "Oh, we're buying this house." And my buddy was like, "You are? What? Okay, great, perfect. Yeah, I want to die on this floor. I want to die with this floor as my house, as my floor." It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, okay, that is one of the coolest things ever. It's like,
that's the magazine article. I think that one's titled "The She Didn't Look Anywhere Else Floor." So for people that if they jump on Wood Floor Business Magazine or go online and take a look, there's a lot of these. The Moses deer we talked about. Oh wait, that one's, I think, just the article's entitled "She Didn't Look Anywhere Else Floor." She walked in and she said, "Nope, this is it. I like this." Yeah. You don't think about that. People anchor themselves to something that just gives them a real sense of security or comfort, and it's locked in. It just makes them feel good. It's not, some people, when we're done doing a floor, they have a big cookout and they go, "There they are, our floor guys. We love them." They're not talking about the painter, the drywall guy, and now everybody's ticked off at you. But with you, it's more like there's a lot more involved in this. Even, with this type of artistry, I want people to go on the magazine and check out. You have another one called Celestial Touch that's got the pistol grip. Right, and pistol grip is just where there's a natural bend. I say that, a bend in the tree, or I've seen trees get crushed by another tree, make a right angle, get crushed by a second tree, and make a third right angle, and grow that way. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh.
There was a park in, I think, San Francisco. I think it was in the 50s up until now. There was a gentleman started the park with saplings, and his whole life he bent all the saplings into thrones and chairs and caves and shapes, and over the years they've grown into full living trees in the shapes of what he bent them to be. And I see, like when you say a pistol grip, when you get a piece of a tree that's got a curved right angle bend and you cut that into a slab of flooring and now you got to work around it, it's got to be fun.
Oh, it's
as well as challenging.
Well, the whole slabbing is like Christmas every time, because it's like, what is it going to be? What is it going to be? You're kind of rubbing your hands going, okay, then you cut through, then you slide this top slab off and you sweep off the sawdust, and it's like, oh yeah. I mean, because not always, but there's always those times where, or the shape of it's like, you get like 3 or 4 of them, you're setting them out. It's like, oh, I could totally see something, they kind of, I hate the, I like it, but it's kind of, it's like the wood talks to you, it tells you what it wants to do or whatever. It's like,
well, anybody that has any artistic ability will tell you that. A lot of times, you look at a slab of stone and someone sees a statue, other people are like, no, that's a slab of stone. Well, when we were kids, Tom, we had these bikes that you kick backwards. That was your brakes. You pedal forward. You go forward. If the chain comes off, you're dead. You go down the hill, you put your brake in, now you're in trouble. You couldn't do anything with those bikes. Today, any kid could take that bike and go, "Watch, mister," and it'll go on my roof, over my car, down a railing, down a sidewalk. I'm like, I didn't do any of that with that thing. Oh, go back to the very, 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 very beginning, because now I have one question that becomes 2 questions. How did you just get into flooring first off, and then how did you get into the more custom detail part of it, or did it all happen? How did that happen?
When I was 15, I asked a neighbor who was a contractor if I could work for him. So he had me start at the foundation, and I was putting in joist hangers all day long. And so from there, we built the whole house. So from 15 till probably 2010 or something like that, I was a remodeler. I went to college or whatever. I got my master's in teaching and BS in psychology. But once I got done, it's like, I like construction. I like building things. So it wasn't until I moved from the west side of the state, from the Seattle area over to Spokane, and my brother, who had been in hardwood flooring since he was 17 or 18, he was in Spokane. So I moved over there and we started a business, Thomas Michael Hardwood Flooring. And he taught me his 30 years of experience, and we busted butt in rentals, and nothing really too extravagant. It's all more just get in there, get out of there, which left me with a lot of questions. It's like, how come, is that dish out normal? Just a lot of things like that. And then so we'd split up after 5 years, and then I was doing remodeling and hardwood floors. I ended up getting myself some tools, and my wife was like, "Well, what about the floor?" And then I won the award, and my neighbor was so ecstatic about his floor. It's like I need to do more of these. And my buddy who bought me the kiln, he was like, "Dude, this is awesome." Everybody's just pushing me. It's one of those, and it's not that I didn't want to do it. It's just like I need to make money. It's hard to go out brand new something that that I'm still learning on. It's like so it's one of those but throughout my remodeling career, I had always pushed the envelope of doing things that my boss had never seen before. Okay, yeah, you can do that if you think you can do it, sort of thing. He gave me free reign of doing stuff. So, and then I got into tile, and I do granite arches, and bought a polisher, and I polished, just doing stuff that I always pushed. I always liked arches, or curves and stuff. So I was always just doing more than just trying to be as fast as I possibly could.
Now I'm having the same thing you're having. I was going to ask you, with all your education, is art in your background, in your education, or it's just art is something that you do?
I drew. I did some, what do you call it, drafting in high school. Did like a couple years of drafting, and then I was drawing my friends. And then after high school, I'd do a little bit of drawing here and there. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do I went back to school when I was doing construction, and I got my AA Associates of Arts. So I took a couple art classes in there. And then, I'd always be doing it. So there is some background, I guess. Yeah. But it's funny because I'd never considered myself an artist until, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Never. I just I'm not an artist. An artist is like somebody who makes money with what they, create or whatever. But it's more, I guess it's more the way you see the world. I don't know.
No, you're right.
But
you're right. I used to sketch my whole life, and I wanted to be a cartoonist. And I wanted it to be pristine, and I would see these other people, and I didn't want to draw because I thought their stuff was brilliant. And then today, you go in any greeting card shop, one, the writing's terrible. Two, most of the sketches are terrible. Not everyone just has it flowing from them, and some people do, and I've met these people. But you're right. Sometimes I would even look at a floor with the grain of the wood or the color of the wood or maybe how we laid it out, and you'd think, I'm going to put some of this away in my barn, and maybe later we'll do something cute with it or something intricate with it. Do customers, do you at this point now, in your day-to-day business, do people come to you? You go look for them? Do you advertise? Are you selling whatever floor that they're looking to have? Or are you, how do you juggle the normal floor with the artistic floors and both combined?
This year I went out and I did, it's probably 20 plus days of home shows where outdoorsman shows, like 2 outdoorsman shows, Seattle home show, Spokane Bighorn show, trying to reach people who might have some money who are interested in nature or some,
Do people think you're a photographer?
No, but it's funny because
they look at your wood photos and they'll go, "What are these?"
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. They have no clue. It's like they walk up. Oh, cool frames. Because I have all the slab live edge stuff. So I made frames out of this stuff too. And everybody's so interested in the frames, and the artwork inside was cool too. And it's like, excuse me, no, I'm selling hardwood floors. It's like, oh, hardwood floor. And then they get really confused. It's like, I don't understand. no, what you're looking at is a hardwood floor. And they'd kick their head a little sideways, and they'd get their mouth would open. They, oh, I get it. And then they'd be, I don't know. It was such a neat process to see, because it didn't just happen once. It was at least 5 or 6 times a day. Someone would go through that same process, just that, like a little kid finding a bowl full of jelly beans or something.
Well, you have photos of your work up on
a
a wall. They're going to think it's an art gallery. You almost have to put it down and say, okay, stand on this. That's a floor in somebody's house. I can't bring it here.
Well, in my head, it's like, okay, I gotta make like some 4x4 medallions that are like portraits that you'd kind of you flip through, so that people know it's wood and they know it's not just artwork. And well, that could be artwork, and that's another thing I'm going to push on my website would be to do murals, or I have a gal who wanted me to do elk that her husband got for a picture on the wall. So but all that's being said, I haven't found the right way to market it yet, which I'm still trying. And the way I got one job was from a designer that I'd worked with 4 times before, never met her, never knew her. And she'd referred me because I'd done some, a bathroom that she had designed. I did a floor currently that was, when she referred me, I was working. I didn't know. Like I said, never met her, but she referred me to this couple who their refrigerator leaked, and so it's like, okay, yeah, well, thank you. Then it turns out to be this floor this last year, this that I just won the award for.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are there designers always involved, or it just happened that, or you're probably the designer in most cases?
Yeah, but that's what I'm pushing too. It's like I can do anything. So if there's a designer who's thinking, hey, I want to have a niche or whatever that I do these really cool floors, he or she could design them and I can build them. I have no problem with that. Like I say, it's not something. It's just, it's got to be what comes from my head.
My vision.
It's like
my muse.
Yeah, it's got to be my vision.
Do you have to do any bidding, or you're just basic? Do you just show up and go, hey, I'm here for the floor estimate, or is it just something totally different?
With a straight lay or for an art?
Give me either or. Like, are you sometimes you're going out and you're just like, okay, I'm going to bid up against everybody else, and it's 800 feet of 5-inch right? Oh, got it. You get those too.
So yeah, and they'll call and I'll say, how many square feet? And I'll give them a rough estimate, and if they say, well, I go, because I'm probably going to be higher than everybody else you're going to get a bid from. I'll tell you that. I'm going to probably take a little longer, but I care, So if you want me to come out, I'll charge you a fee, and we'll go from there. And then if that shuts them down, it shuts them down. But it hasn't lately. People are like, oh yeah, come on up. And so, and I tend to have a little bit more knowledge than most, like the customer I was just with. He said, we had 3 different, the insurance told us to get 3 different bids, and you by far had more information than all of them together. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, called pursuing education and caring. That's another thing, caring. It's not like I'm going to get in there and bust it out as fast as I can and dust the place out. And it's like, no.
That's the other question is, I assume, like, you're like anybody, you look into, living room, dining room, blah, blah, blah. Okay, install a day and a half, sand, finish. All right, it's going to take this week. When you're looking at something with an intricate design, how do you have are you even concerned with what's the amount of time this is going to take me? Or do you know how much time it's going to take you?
I try to guess. It is a guess though. Sure. Like the fight with the birds and the medallion, I thought, oh God, I could bust that out in 3 months. No problem. Sure. No problem. And so 6 months, 5.5 months later, like, oh yeah, but that's not at that point. It's like these customers, I'm at their house now. I did a border and I said, hey, do you want the border to go in front of their fridge fireplace, or do you want me to turn it in and hit the columns, and it opens up to the fireplace? And they said, I don't know. I kind of like the idea. And it's like, well, let me give you not a demo. Let me cut some stuff and I'll show you so you get a visual. And they said, oh, won't that take too long? It's like, okay, to me, the job is going to be there for 100 years, hopefully, and this extra hour maybe that I'm going to do to make it either aesthetically better for you or not, you'll be able to see it. It's so worth it. So once it's a contract, it's a contract, and I try to do the best I can. And if honestly, it's like my wife works, so we're not going to starve. I don't have that, oh, we got to get it done because I'm not going to make any money attitude. But I do want to make money. That's not, but at some point you shake somebody's hand and you make a commitment and you do everything you can to fulfill that commitment. And that's how I feel like my jobs go.
So if it takes 3 months, let's say, or 6 months, is that because you're juggling it around other work, or is that all you're working on? That's it.
That one was all I was working on.
Okay.
Yeah.
People don't always understand that. I know when we had a buddy of mine here used to work with Tom Osborne down in Florida, and he'd say, oh, Tom did 2 floors this year. Like, which ones? He goes, no, he just did 2 floors. It took 6 months
Right.
for each of them, and it's a lot of work and a lot of money. And like you, he doesn't go to the distributor and buy flooring and put it in. He buys lumber, puts it on site, has all his machines set up, and crafts what he's making, and he puts it into the floor while he's there, and then it becomes something totally different. So it seems like that would take you an extremely long amount of time, and then you must budget for that. You're not like, well, I get $350 a foot, so this is going to be $450 a foot. You must just come up with some block number for where you got to get paid for 3 or 4 months.
Well, yeah. So as this last job, I did a lot of followed my numbers a little bit more. How long I tried to do pieces, how many pieces. I don't know. I calculated all my numbers and figured out what I was making. And it's just one of those, and so at the home shows and stuff, people go, well, how much is a square foot? It's like, well, I start at $350 a square foot,
right.
But depending on the detail of it, because I have that floor that I traded the kiln for, that took me almost a month, and then I have that bird that took almost a month. So you're looking at a whole floor versus a 3.5 by 1 foot, square, 1.5 square feet of bird. It's just totally really depends on the pieces.
And it's not CNC and CAD work, right? You're doing sketching, making
No.
pieces. How do you get from your design to the pieces that you're making? Like you've seen some people, they do them, you can spot them a mile away. They've been done with a laser cutter, et cetera. How do you go from your sketch to the piece to the floor?
I draw it out actual size, and I blue tape. I put blue tape there, then I have a piece of paper with the drawing over the top of the blue tape, and I cut out each individual piece of paper. This is for for the birds. This is the intricate part. Each piece was cut out of a piece of paper, okay. And then when that piece of paper is cut out, I draw onto the blue tape underneath it the shape of that piece, and then I number both pieces the same. Then I take that piece of paper and I put it on the color of the wood it needs to be, and then I draw it around that piece of paper, scribe it onto that wood, and put the same number on there. So now I have 3 numbers, one on the blue tape, one on the piece of paper, and one on the wood. And then once I cut the wood out, the wood with that number goes back onto the blue tape on that number. So I start out with a white piece of paper with all the drawing on it. And then each piece gets cut out and put on a board. And once that board gets cut out, it gets put back onto the blue tape and fitted. And then as I fit it, I glue it to each other, and then that blue tape gets covered up with the actual shape of the bird or whatever I'm building.
That brings me to this. So with Wood Floor Business's Design Awards, you won Best Residential, and I believe that was a wildlife. Is wildlife a theme in most of what you do? And where does that come from?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Like the swoosh was not any wildlife. And then that's one of the things I found out with the home shows too is that I uh, my my booth buddy across the way at at Seattle Home Show, he had a wooden bathtub that he is made out of really cool maple slabs. The Little Day Spa, uh, little, little Day Spa. Anyways, it's, yeah, and we he got these cookies, and he said, okay, every time a person says, hey, that'd be good in a cabin, or that's rustic, we'd eat a cookie. And I got sick of the cookies because there's so many people who was like, oh, this is so rustic, this would be great in a cabin or something. It's like, so what I learned was like, I'm going to split my booth in half, and I'm going to do all modern on one, and then do the rustic on the other, because anything could be done with the wood. It's really just has to do with the design. And so since most of my material is live edge, that's kind of where it pushes towards, but the possibilities are freaking endless. So I like the swoosh it had some live edge in it in the field, but everything else, not everything else, there's a few things, but the elements in it weren't rustic.
No.
I don't think. So I just got to push more towards, and it's like that, I guess that log one, the sphere one was, you could call it rustic, but to me, it's more modern. But
Because it's a little tricky to describe what you do, because you can look at the magazines of every floor of the year, and some look like they came out of a palace in Versailles, and some they all look very different. And I find over the years the ones that look timeless, those are the ones that stick around. It's just like good music or anything else. When I was mentioning looking over your work online, etc., and looking at the Cats Off stuff, I wasn't sure how to describe what he does or you do. And they had an interview with his design people at his art gallery. And I'm like, that's what Tom Ourada does. They brought up 2 points. One, there's it's like a dynamism to what you do. There's this dynamic quality that's different than just, say a hardwood floor. But the other component I thought was interesting, they said there's an organic quality. And I'm like, that's what it is. That when I look at your floor, I'm like, that has an organic quality to it. There's something that says this is not only different, this is very organic. These are parts of it. I mean, you look at a tree, you count the rings, yay. You look at this, you're seeing branches and pith and extensions of the tree and bends and damage. And it was really interesting when I was looking at all your stuff. I'm like, this is a little mini museum to the life of a tree. The tree's going to die at some point. And, we die, they shove you in the ground. People talk about it, you get a headstone. The tree dies, it's still useful. They can turn it into your floor one day could wind up in a violin. We don't know what they're doing with this stuff. So you look at this, I'm like, wow, that is very organic. Do you feel like that what you're doing, when you get to work with these woods, et cetera, it becomes a little more organic than just hey, I'm going to put a floor in your living room thing?
For sure, the birds, the fight, or whatever, the birds in the entry medallion, there's not a straight piece in there, so it's really hard not to be organic when it's all curves, and there's or to me organic is kind of more free flowing, more not, once you put a straight line on something, it's ceased to be organic in my head. So
yeah, it kind of does. I was going to say symmetry. When you're doing a floor, you got to make sure you've got the straight line, a vantage line through the house, so it looks straight. It's not crooked. You're not following off, a wall, etc. But that's functionality and that's symmetry, and sometimes there's some asymmetry to flooring. But when art steps in, it kind of throws those lines out of balance a little bit. I would think where most of my customers and the people I work with, their priority concern is functionality. They want their work to look good, be done, not cup, not warp, not twist, not gap, not move. Is it even more technically difficult for you to go, okay, part of this floor is going to have a lot of artwork in it? Does that just function better, or is it even more complicated for the cupping, warping, twisting, and technical issues that can come up with the floor?
I tend to use some bigger pieces. So I have used some larger pieces, and the firewood one up in the cabin. I did find that there like there was two areas that had some cupping going on. I don't know if that was the house issue or just the board didn't have, maybe had too much moisture or something. But like with a gymnasium, the whole, there isn't a cumulative effect that wood has in large spaces, because the grain's going in so many different directions, so it doesn't have an issue. Like with the sphere, there was some cracks that went, not the sphere, the Lake Coeur d'Alene entry in the fight here. I had some cracks occur, and I don't know what it was. I still don't, because I was taking boards. I was taking moisture measurements at the house of maple, and then I'd come back and moisture check the maple in my shop, because I do all my stuff in my shop. I try, because it takes so long to do stuff. I don't set up shop in the client's home until I have to install. So I'm trying to match. I've got a dehumidifier, humidifier, or whatever in my shop, so that I could keep the moisture content or the same. So I was checking it; was always the same, and still something happened. I'm not sure what, but so there is issues that occur. But it was supposed to be a log, and so they were like, "Oh, no worries, it's a log. It's supposed to crack." It's like, well, okay, thank you.
Well, you see things different. I remember I was a kid. I was a percussionist, and I'd come home. I was a skinny little thing. I wish I still was. And my dad would say, go split all the firewood. And my brother was a Marine. He was off wherever he was. So I'm like, now they get the skinny kid doing it. So I'd crank my radio up and go out there and I'd split hardwood. And I noticed when I'd throw it in the pile, it had different sounds to it. I started throwing it in residence and throw it around, make it in timing. And then I remember one day I lined up different pieces of oak that had been cut for firewood and was beating it with the back of the axe.
Oh, wow,
I made a xylophone out of it. And I'm like, I couldn't put a grip on it. Like, what are we missing? Like, this wood should be somewhere besides in Dad's fireplace. And I'm toiling over like, well, look at Tom does it. It's kind of cool. And trying to get, where are you getting this from? And I heard a quote this week. Somebody said, wood is a sidelined material, and it's used in a basic form. Take this beautiful tree, cut it down, send it to a mill. And we just went to a mill yesterday, was saying, you should see the computer and the machine and the lasers and this, and it's ripping these beautiful trees into perfectly straight boards, and we throw them into a floor or in prefit. And great, that looks beautiful. What could the tree have become? What could it have been? And I'm like, they're right. We sideline wood in a lot of situations because technically it can cause issues. Some is soft, some's too dense. Some will split. I love hickory. It splits. Maple and pine, and some of them gap, and they never go back again. Red oak, it's perfectly resilient. It does what it's supposed to do. I can't imagine the first person that decided to take a red oak forest and make rum barrels out of them, because that had to be pretty messy. So all these centuries of learning what to do with a tree, and we've resigned it to its basic form. We don't build chips out of it anymore. Somebody will still, though, put it in their home and build nice furniture out of it. And you don't sideline wood. You look at it differently. You look at it like a starting player on your varsity team. You seem to have that appreciation for. Do you look at twigs and branches and get excited?
Oh, it's when I was cutting wood on my mill, it was hard not to drive anywhere because you'd see a dead or dying tree, and that's typically how I'd got most of my my lumber. Is I'd stop at somebody's house who has a dead tree. Hey, you want me to cut that down for you? I'll take the wood for you. So it's almost an addiction, You're driving around and your eyes are just going everywhere. That's right. It's spring. There's no leaves on those trees, so I can't tell if it's dead or not. There's so much possibility in a tree. Yeah. The branches, the thick branches. I just passed my our high school and my kids went to, and they just cut the branches off 3 big, huge cottonwoods. And cottonwoods aren't the best, but I just made a desk and some drawers and a filing cabinet and put some live edge cottonwood, big slabs, like 1.25 inches thick on top. And they had some beautiful figure and great color. And luckily, just before that, I had built a a bar top, and the people, I installed it the next day. They said, "Hey, I just wrote on that, and it left dents in the wood as a fur."
Oh yes.
Fur. It's like, oh, okay, I'll be back. So I went over back the next day, took it out, and so I took some epoxy and I epoxied it, and then brought it back and put it in. Oh yeah, it's great, and it worked great. So with this cottonwood, I know it's soft, but it's so beautiful. So I just epoxied it, and it's working great as a desk. So these 3 trees, it's like, oh my gosh, there's some potential. Oh, maybe I could ask the high school if maybe get the kids to build some big, huge executive desk for their whatever. It's one of those
principal or something.
My brain just always going about what possibilities. So.
Well, I'm going to take a picture of my commute tonight because we've lived in the same neighborhood for 30 years, and there is an oak tree with a tumor on it with a burl. I would bet that the diameter, it's probably got a 4-foot radius, maybe an 8-foot diameter.
Oh gosh!
And I look at it every day, and I'm like, I wonder if they ever cut this down. I will swoop over here. And there's a guy across the street. I'm not kidding you. He has a big mill and a barn and everything. I look out one day. He's got this giant tumor burl out of a tree. I go, he got my tree. He didn't. It looked just like it. And I'm like, but now I know he's going to see that before me when that tree comes down. And now the bark is starting to come off it. I go, oh, somebody's going to decommission this tree. And you know what that thing's going to look like inside. It's got to be incredible.
Is it dead?
No, the tree's perfectly fine.
Oh, okay.
But the bark is starting to fall. I'll send you a picture tonight so you can see that. But have you ever seen the game Pictionary? I got a really beautiful handcrafted American cherry, bowback Windsor chairs and a table. And one night we all played Pictionary. And I retired that table because it just looked like hieroglyphics. Everybody's drawings are in that table. And I thought of my uncle who was a wood craftsman, and one of his kids fell and smashed something into his pine. He took a pine slab, sanded it and stained it, and that was his table, bark and everything. So maybe he invented live sawn. And after the kid dented it, I go, what happened to the table? My aunt said he took it out to the garage. He beat it with a hammer, the entire table, stained it, brought it back in, he coated it, and then put a glass top over it. Now, there were 3 of them in the neighborhood. Everybody dropped their tables off to be beaten with a hammer. My grandfather used to shoot. He would make Queen Anne and cabriole. He'd make legs and things, and he would shoot them with buckshot. So it looked like worm rot, and then he would stain it, put coffee grinds into it, and he would make these reproductions for big furniture companies back when you couldn't buy furniture. And like, what's Grandpa doing shooting the sofa he made? No, he's got it all worked out. You never know how you're going to make it work, and you kind of see that in what you're doing. It's that, again, that organic quality. Sometimes you look at a floor and you go, there could have been a lot we could have done with it. You ever put a piece of wood on the floor like a quarter sawn or a maple bird's eye, and you're so excited, and the homeowner says, why'd you put that there? I don't like that one. You're like, I'll take it back.
I'll cut it out, man.
Yeah, I'll take it home. I'll give it to a pen guy. He'll give me $200 to make you a pen out of this thing. Well, we've gone over a whole bunch of stuff, and I think people need to go online to see what you do. A lot what you do is just amazingly visual. One of the final questions I had for you is, you would think with everything going on too, you're still like, hey, I got to make a business out of this. It's almost like I think it was Katzoff that said, I didn't mean to get into capitalism. I was like, I wanted to get into craftsmanship, and I decided the only way I can do my craftsmanship is to make some money. So you still have to try to find a way to make the money to stay in what you love. Is that a tricky proposition?
Yeah, but it's possible. I mean, Katzoff's doing it. One of the conversations you said was there anything? I think you asked if I learned anything.
Yeah, anything.
Anything. Yeah, we had a conversation. God, he's such a good guy. He was saying how he worked with a billionaire, and the guy in the middle of the project he put his whole workforce on this project, and they changed designers, and the designers come in and they changed everything up. So all this time, and he hasn't gotten paid, and it was one of those things that was just awful. And I just loved it because I said, what did you learn from it? He goes, you know what? instead of paying the $150,000 for lawyers to try to make them pay me what I've done, I would have spent that money on smooshing the designers.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that is beautiful. That is just like, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it costing that much, but the whole idea is that then you're not doing a fight. You're doing I don't know, you're making new friends is what you're doing. And potentially they could hire you for something else. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. And he's just such a, gosh, I can't say what a good guy that guy is.
Yeah, that's a brilliant mind. I'm really great that you put it on your Facebook page, and I got to see that and clicked on it. And it was good because you talk to a lot of floor people. You try to find what's the angle, what do they do different, and you definitely do things a lot different. But just that link gave me an idea how you think, how it comes together, how he thinks, how when I do floors that are a little different, or whether I write children's books. So why do I write that way? And I've never, ever considered myself a writer or an artist until about a week ago.
Oh, nice.
I got first published when I was 9 years old, and I'm like, I'm not a writer. And every time I go to the magazine, I go, Kim, I don't know where to put which quotation goes up or down, and then when can I use 3 dots instead of a pause? And she's like, you're driving me crazy. So it's just you just kind of said it. If you go back to every podcast I've ever done, every magazine piece we've ever done, there's always this moment when everything's off and then the stories come out. And like you said, I might have somebody that just did the most brilliant piece ever, and I shut off the microphone and he goes, "They paid me." And if you talk to him, you tell me I said. And like you said, cat's off, he's like, I got a designer that owes me a ton of dough. I've said it a million times, we want to do this like deadliest catch captains thing. We already said with Matt Garcia, we're going to his place in his treehouse, and we're going to get all of us people that have done All Things Wood Floor together, and we're going to do an uncensored, just mic drop moment, and we're going to talk about all the junk in the industry that we're not allowed to talk about here. And I think that would be great. And I'm going to give it to Wood Floor Business, and they can run it late at night or something. Then we all go out with wiffle ball bats and chase down these people that owe us money. Listen, I'm gonna let you roll, but I have some quick fire questions. Here's the deal: I'm gonna ask you quick fire questions. You give me the shortest answer that you can give me, and then you can escape this podcast with your life.
Yeah.
Tom, are you ready? Here we go.
I think I'm ready.
Okay,
we'll give it a shot.
If you had to choose, and you could only pick one: installation or sanding and finishing?
Installation.
What's difficult about what you do as a business?
Making money.
If you weren't in the wood flooring industry, what would you be doing?
I would be teaching.
In all your craftsmanship, what's your favorite tool to work with?
The one that goes back and forth.
Yeah, that one. The multi-tool.
Multi-tool, yeah.
I still don't know what to call it. We call it a fine saw, but it's. Okay. All right. What's the best thing about being a floor pro in our industry?
I found the people. Gosh, the people I've met, like in WFA, get-togethers, whatever. They're quality people. As long as that matters, I've been awesome.
In your career, what are you most proud of?
That I made money on something I love to do.
That's cool. All right, so they make the Lifetime movie channel about your life. What actor plays you?
Ed. Oh shoot.
Norton.
No. There's a guy who looks just like me. My Ed.
As soon as you said it, I could see it. You're Ed. Not Mr. Ed. No. We'll just go with Ed. Last question for you, Tom Ourada Designs. Are there any trees left on your property?
Oh, yeah. A whole bunch of pines.
Will there be any in the next 3 weeks to a year?
Yeah, I don't like pine, so...
Well, we're done. I have to go back to this. Has your wife ever said, hey, take it easy, I'd like to keep some of these?
No. Well, when I was doing working with my brother on rentals, every rental, because they're always they weren't always in the best shape, and so they'd always have the little starts. Anything that was a tree that was a start, I would dig up and I'd bring home to my house. So I had like 30 or 40 of them. After about 2 years, the voles had gotten like 15 of them. So I still have like 15 trees that some I don't know what they are, because they were just, and some are some nice hardwoods. All hardwood. So.
Well, I'm gonna drive home while there's still light. I'm gonna take a picture of that tree for you. I'm gonna send it to you, and maybe we can make an offer to these people, and we can turn it into. We can make an ark and put animals on it and save the planet.
Beautiful idea.
Hey, man, it's finally great to meet you and talk with you and chat it up a little bit, and I hope we do this again.
Back at you, Steve. Appreciate it,
Tom. Yes, anytime. We will talk soon, buddy. You take care.
Have a good night.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
To see the amazing wood floors Stephen and Tom discussed in this episode, go to woodfloorbusiness.com and enter Tom Ourada, that's Ourada, in the search box. If you don't get your own free subscription to Wood Floor Business, make sure you subscribe by going to woodfloorbusiness.com and clicking on the magazine link. And if you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for listening.